Hey, it's Roger. I'm back, and we're picking up with the smoke testing for the VM MS SQL configuration that we just provisioned. So the first thing we're going to do here is verify that the MS SQL Win1 node configuration is compliant with desired state configuration. This warning is important. Sometimes when this configuration gets applied, it initially shows some failures and it takes Azure Automation desired state configuration a while to catch up. Give it some time because if it's showing failed, go back and check 15 or 20 minutes later and it should show that it's compliant. So let's go have a look. So we'll go up to the Azure portal. And we'll go into our automation account. And here under configuration management, we see state configuration. And you can see we have 3 compliant nodes now. We've got our domain controller, we've got our Windows jump box, and now we've got our SQL Server VM. So if we click on this, you can see that it did indeed initially fail, and it took it, almost 15 minutes to come back and refresh and show compliant. So if we click on the consistency check here, you can see all the different things that were happening in the desired state configuration. We ran a SQL script query, we domain joined the machine, we configured the network firewall, we created a SQL login, we made a change to a SQL role, we added a Windows feature, and we also added an Active Directory group. So we'll go look at that code in the configuration later when we do the code walkthrough. So that's looking good. What else do we need to do? Oh, I forgot to have a look at the configuration. So if you click on the configurations tab here, you see we have a new one, MS SQL VM config. And if we look at compiled configurations, we have a new compilation as well. We compiled that configuration for MS SQL Win1. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to go and test DNS queries to make sure that our SQL Server VM, is properly registered with DNS. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to log into Jump Win1, which is where we do all of our work. And we'll do that using Bastion. Remember, we're going to be logging in using a domain account. Bootstrap admin at mysandbox.local. We can pull the password from Key Vault. And connect up. Okay, looks like I was doing some work up here before, so we'll close this down. So let's go do a resolve DNS name. MS SQL Win1. So we're on Jump Win1 and we're testing that our DNS queries are going to work to our SQL Server VM. And that looks right. The address is 10.2, which is the application virtual network. And the .1 here tells me that I'm in the database subnet. And this is the first IP address in that database subnet. So that's looking good. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is test connectivity using a SQL Server Management Studio. So that makes sure that the port 1433 connectivity is working from across the network into our SQL Server VM. So we're going to go ahead and launch SQL Server Management Studio, which is on Jump Win 1. Okay. And we'll connect up to MS SQL Win 1. And, we've domain joined this machine and all the securities configured so that Bootstrap admin is part of the sysadmin server role. So basically equivalent to SA. So we're going to go ahead and use Windows Integrated Authentication. That's all pre-configured in the Sandbox environment. So let's click on OK and see if we can get a connection. And we do. So there's our SQL Server instance running, or the default SQL Server instance running on MS SQL Win 1. So the connection test worked. Let's see what else the smoke testing suggests that we do. Let's see. Create a new database named testDB. All right. So we'll go new database, testDB, and we'll click on OK. And now if we expand our databases, here's a new database that we just created. And if we pull up the properties, we can see that the data files are not sitting on the OS drive. They're sitting on the data and the log drives that were pre-configured by all the automation that's part of this Sandbox configuration. So the data file is sitting on the M drive, which is our data disk, and the log file is sitting on the L drive, which is the log disk. So that's all working correctly. The default data and log disk settings took, and as we create new databases, the data and the log files will land in the right place. So that's good. And let's see what else the smoke testing wants us to do. That's it. So in the next video, we'll do a code walkthrough of all the different automation that's included in this configuration. Thanks.